This is the story about the legendary adventures of a wooden puppet who wanted to be a real boy. He was naughty and made mistakes, but had a big heart and had the courage to do what is right. Let me introduce you to Pinocchio. Pinocchio swam through freezing, salty waves. The wooden boy kicked his legs with all his might. Pinocchio needed to find Geppetto. Geppetto had sailed into the dangerous ocean months ago to search for Pinocchio. Pinocchio paddled over large waves. He dodged floating seaweed. The sky turned dark. The wind howled loudly. Pinocchio feared an ocean storm was beginning. The dark water spun in massive circles. A giant whirlpool formed in front of Pinocchio. Pinocchio tried to swim away. The current was too strong. Pinocchio spun around like a toy boat. A gray shape rose from the foaming water. It was not a mountain. It was a massive sea monster. This creature was the terrible dogfish. The beast measured over a mile long. The dogfish had rows of sharp, sword-like teeth. The monster suffered from severe asthma. It gasped for air with a loud, whistling wheeze. That giant gasp created the whirlpool. The current pulled Pinocchio toward the monster. Pinocchio paddled backward. The effort failed. The dogfish opened its massive jaws. The monster inhaled deeply. Pinocchio flew through the air. The puppet tumbled past the sharp teeth. Pinocchio slid down the dark, slimy throat of the dogfish. The giant jaws snapped shut behind Pinocchio with a thunderous boom. Pitch-black darkness filled the space. Pinocchio slid down the wet, slippery tunnel at high speed. Pinocchio splashed into a pool of cold, foul-smelling water. Pinocchio was trapped inside the stomach of the dogfish. Pinocchio rubbed the wooden eyes of Pinocchio. Faint green lights began to glow in the darkness. The green lights came from a herd of giant sea slugs. These creatures were the size of horses. The slugs crawled slowly across piles of broken wood and rusted cannons. Pinocchio realized he was standing in a graveyard of swallowed ships. Pinocchio searched for an exit. The puppet climbed a broken ship mast rising from the water. He reached toward the slippery throat far above. A giant sea slug fell from the fleshy ceiling. The giant sea slug blocked Pinocchio's path. The creature opened a mouth full of sticky green slime. It lunged at the wooden puppet. Pinocchio had to think fast. He remembered he was made of enchanted, buoyant wood. Pinocchio spotted an iron cannonball on the wrecked deck. He grabbed the iron cannonball. He threw the iron cannonball into the giant slug's mouth. The weight pulled the giant slug down into the dark water. Pinocchio leaped over the sinking slug. He landed on the deck of an ancient pirate ship. He walked across the rotting wood. He heard a terrifying noise. A loud rumble shook the stomach. The dogfish suffered a violent asthma attack. The stomach walls heaved. Massive waves crashed inside the belly. Pinocchio grabbed a thick rope. He held on to avoid falling into the darkness. The violent shaking stopped. Pinocchio saw a tiny yellow light. The light flickered in the distance. The light was warmer and brighter than the sea slugs. Pinocchio feared the light belonged to a hungry sea monster. He gripped a sharp piece of driftwood. He crept quietly over the broken ships. Pinocchio prepared for a fight. Pinocchio climbed over a pile of smelly seaweed. He reached the source of the light. The light was not a monster. A small candle melted on a wooden table. The table sat inside a swallowed merchant ship. Pinocchio crept toward the ship. Pinocchio peeked through a cracked, round window. Pinocchio's wooden heart skipped a beat. An old man sat alone at the table. The man had messy white hair. He wore a faded, torn coat. It was Geppetto. Geppetto looked tired and thin. He held a tiny, dry scrap of fish on a cracked plate. The fish was Geppetto's last meal. Geppetto stared sadly at the candle flame. Pinocchio dropped the driftwood weapon. Pinocchio climbed through the broken window. Pinocchio ran toward Geppetto. Geppetto jumped in shock. He could not believe his eyes. Pinocchio stood before him. The pair hugged tightly. Tears of joy fell down Geppetto's wrinkled cheeks. Pinocchio danced happily in the small cabin. He had finally found Geppetto. The long search was over. A sudden cough interrupted their joy. The giant dogfish shook the cabin. The merchant ship rocked violently. The candle flickered and almost died. Geppetto and Pinocchio remained trapped inside the giant dogfish. Geppetto looked terrified. The old man pointed to the dark water. Geppetto feared they would remain trapped in the darkness forever. Pinocchio shook his wooden head. He stood tall and puffed out his chest. The puppet had survived con artists, giant termites, and a cruel circus ringmaster. Pinocchio refused to be defeated by the giant fish. Pinocchio pointed toward the throat of the monster. Pinocchio promised Geppetto they would escape. The true adventure was just beginning. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next quest. A like and a subscribe will help us stay connected with you. Also be a great source of encouragement for our team.